All right, so in this section, we're just going to talk about what an expression is, what an equation is, and actually writing expressions. So basically putting words into a problem or taking a problem and how you read it and what it says. A few things that we need to cover, some basics as far as what some of these words in relation to math mean. Product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So anytime you times a number by a number, that answer is the product of that. A quotient is the answer to a division problem. Difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. And sum is the answer to an addition problem. So if you see these words ever in a expression or a problem that they're asking what is the product of this, it's asking you to multiply, quotient, divide, difference. There's going to be something with subtraction, and sum is addition. Okay, another vocabulary term that we're going to be using is a variable. A variable is a symbol. It's usually a letter, but it could be anything. A lot of times it's x. You'll see something times x, which is why we don't use x for multiplication anymore. We usually use a dot or things in parentheses, like 5 times 6 would be indicating multiplication, but x is usually the most common one that you're going to use or you're going to see in most of your problems. Solving for x, a variable. It's just an unknown. It's could represent one or more numbers. An algebraic expression is basically something that has no equal sign. So if I say 5 times 4, that is considered an expression. 5 times 4 would equal 20, obviously. But just the 5 times 4 part, if I'm asking you that, that's an expression. An equation contains an equal sign. So if I ask you between these two examples, if I have 5 times 4 or 5 times x equals 7, this would be an expression. This would be an equation. And again, because it contains an equal sign. Now in class, we filled out a chart. There's obviously these main vocabulary terms: product, quotient, difference, sum, which mean multiplication, division, subtraction, and addition. But there's also a lot of other words, and these are some of them. We have brainstormed as a class to figure out what words also mean addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc. So here's some other ones to be familiar with. Like if you're reading a problem, they're asking you to write an expression or an equation. Addition would be sum. It could be more than, so 5 more than 3 could be 3 plus 5. Plus is an obvious one. Add, if they're asking you to add together. Greater than, and greater than could also be inequality symbols too, but if it's 5 greater than 6, that could also mean addition. Some other ones for subtraction: difference, less than, minus, well, we wrote that twice, difference, take away, and again, you can think of other ones that might be, but these are some of the most common ones. Multiplication, ones that we came up with, are product, times, multiply. If something's doubled, you're multiplying by 2, raised to the power of. For division, quotient divided by. If something's cut in half or a third, that would also be division. Variable, when we're looking at variables or to add a variable to expression, a lot of times it's going to just say a number. So 5 multiplied by a number. It's an unknown, so we could put any type of variable in there. A lot of times objects can be used as variables. If you're trying to find how many apples there are, you might use a for apples and such in the problem. So it's usually represented as a letter. And sometimes you can use variables to help you understand what the actual thing you're solving for is. If you're solving for cars, how many cars there are, you might use C as the variable. Okay, so then for equals, if you're doing an equation, setting up an equation with words, a lot of times is the most popular one. So 5 times a number is something, is 7. Is would be equals, represent equals in that question. Same as, equal to, sometimes it's obvious as to where the equal sign is, but is one that I think is the most common used. Okay, so how do we put this into practice? Well, we're going to take sentences and write them as expressions or equations. So here's 2 examples. So in this example it says the sum of 9 and k minus 17. So the sum of 9 and k means you're adding. So we have to find our words if you don't remember those. So the sum of 9 and k in this case is a variable, and then we minus 17 from it. So we would write it as 9 plus k minus 17. In this second example, we have 6.7 more than 5 times n is 25. So there's a lot going on here. We have more than, which we have used as addition. 5 times n, here's our variable, and it's telling us times right here, right? So we can put those together as multiplication. Indicates our equal sign, and then 25. So when I write this out as an equation of what you might be used to seeing, 6.7 plus more than 5 times n, which is represented as just 5n. If a number is written right next to a variable, it's multiplication. Is our equal sign, and then 25. All right, so here's 2 more to practice. Pretty basic here. So 9 more than x. So this more than is indicating addition. So we can say 9 plus x, or in this case we can say x plus 9 too. Either way, because addition, it doesn't matter what order we add numbers in. It does for subtraction, so just be aware of that. And here we have 8 less than 6 times a number. So if we break this down, a number could be our variable, right? So maybe we say that that's x. So we have 6 times x, right? And we're taking 8 less than that. So if I have 6 times x and I take less than that, I'm going to subtract 8 from that. This would be one of those examples where if we said 8 minus 6x, that would be incorrect order. So for subtraction and especially division, you have to be careful of what order you put them in. But for multiplication and addition, it really doesn't matter what order you put them in. So that would be wrong. So 6 times a number and we're taking 8 less than that, this would be our answer for that.